Hey, buddy, got a question for you. We're looking for a mask. Maybe you've seen it. Looks a little bit something like this. Seen it anywhere?
Oh, nope. Can't say I have. Sorry.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Recap Review. Today we're going to be looking over set number 8697, Toa Ignika. The set contains approximately 140 pieces, was released in the winter of 2008, and during time of release was approximately $20. Alright, our first vehicle set of the year, technically speaking, and trust me, we have a lot to get through. So, I don't know how well it's showing up on the camera, but I did try and clean this set. I've had it for a long time, obviously, and there may be a little bit of dust, and it may show up, I'm not sure, but I assure you I did my best, and I apologize for it being dirty if you can see that. But let's waste no time, let's get into the disclaimer. Just because a pro and or a con is on this list does not necessarily mean that it is my personal opinion. Please understand that I'm trying to look at this set objectively and bring up viewpoints and opinions or objective facts that come from the community during the time of its release up until now. So please, if I do have a pro or a con on this video, do not assume that it is my personal opinion unless I explicitly say so. Alright, so with that out of the way, what are you doing back here? There we go. Let's go ahead and begin the review. And I will go ahead and take Toa Ignika off, and we will review these both separately. There we go. Now then, let's start with Toa Ignika, obviously. In the story, the Mask of Life, which somehow has some form of sentience, became its own thing after being used by Toa Motoro and chucked into Carta Nui. So he decided he wanted to be a Toa because of Motoro's selflessness. And as such, he did. So as a set, it's generally a standard Paraka build because it uses the Paraka torso. There's not a whole lot of deviation. Obviously enough, there is, but I digress. You may like the build because it is the Paraka build, and that is generally a solid formula, but some may not because it is what many deem to be rather simple. Color scheme is also somewhat solid. The Keat Orange is technically, I believe, supposed to represent gold, because on this set you have all three colors that the Mask of Life can take. Gold, silver, and black. Now, when it's gold, everything's all hunky-dory. When it's silver, that means it started its countdown. So you better hope it doesn't reach black. So, as far as posability goes, the set contains the standard amounts of articulation, 3 in the arms, 3 in the legs, and 1 in the head. New pieces, there aren't a whole lot of new pieces. There are new recolors, and actually I take that back completely. There are no new recolors. Good job, me. No new pieces, no new recolors, except for the Mask of Life. Now, good job, me. We've been waiting for this mask for quite a long time, ever since 2007. And we got it. It wasn't the form we expected it in. We had seen it in 2006, what am I saying? We've wanted this since 2006. We didn't want it in this form necessarily, but this is what we have it in. We have it in silver instead of gold. You see, the Mat Nui robot on the face of the mask, the eye holes. It's got an incredibly striking design, very iconic. And it does not use an axle, a built-in axle, in order to be placed. It uses this system, and we've previously seen the system used on the Maxilos robot, where you use an axle and you insert that manually into the mask, and then you place it on the head. I don't know the rationale behind that, but that's what you can do. So as far as weaponry is concerned, he does have the blade piece that we've seen ad nauseum. He also has the Midax Sky Blaster, and that contains 4 rounds, takes Zamor spheres. Story-wise, they're just spheres of light. What you do is, this is like a turn wheel. You pull that back, and it'll fire. Come on, come on. Really, really works. You have a lot of power behind these Midax Sky Blasters. So just beware of water because it is a spring-loaded blaster. So the build is what it is. It's kind of unique. We do have the armoring on the legs, this new design on the arms. There are some open pins and open axles, so if you like that, that's fine. If you don't mind that, that's fine. If you don't like that, you may have some issue. We see we're continuing the trend of having this kind of new eyepiece with the axle in the back. Oddly enough, he does have this. And now this has been used on all the Toa this year to symbolize a Matoran can connect. In the story, that never happens, and it's never promoted anywhere. However, because it is here, we do have this gap. So, people may not like that. There is that gap there. And he is kind of hunchback. But that depends on whether or not you mind. So that's generally Toa Ignika. He's fairly standard, but it's more the novelty of having Toa Ignika than anything else. You're paying for more the name and the mask than you are the general set, unless you really, really like this set. So moving on, let's see his counterpart. We have the Skyboard. At least I believe that that's its name. Now the color scheme is obviously enough very simple. It is black and silver. Whoa! In the story, this is made out of plants and other marine, flora and fauna. Now, as you can see here, it does have one function, and that is the side pieces here. So it kind of takes on a more aerodynamic airplane mode. It sits fine on its own. However, I wouldn't personally recommend that you have it with the blades out. Do it like that because they can kind of warp. As you can see, I believe it's already taken on some warping of its own. The build is actually rather solid. It is a fun, ingenious build. It's really unique. You have this big thruster back here, so you can just imagine all that raw energy coming out, and it does kind of turn from side to side, but nothing shakes. For being as gappy looking, and that could be considered a con, it does have a lot of gaps, as you can see here. But despite that, it's actually a rather solid build, and it has quite a dynamic look to it. So you can have a lot of fun kind of just swishing it around. Now as for Toa Ignika, he goes on the board pretty much however you want him to. He just uses these pins, and then boom, he's on, he's ready for action. And he actually looks really cool on the board. It's actually a really good look. So, there is that. Obviously enough, the issues with the board are that it's it's mostly Technic, it's mostly blades, and it does have the tendency to warp some pieces occasionally if you aren't careful. It's also rather gappy. Added to that, there is the issue of the blue pins kind of spotted along it. However, I'm sure some people could excuse that as them being kind of like lights on an aircraft on the edge of the wings. Toa Ignika also has the blue pins, and that does somewhat disrupt the color scheme. Together, they do not clash, and they actually work rather well. You're getting quite a good deal out of the set if you bought it back when it was released. The main issues with the set, from what I understand many to believe, is that it doesn't have a lot of new pieces. It has a lot of pieces, which is good, but it doesn't have anything new. It doesn't have a whole lot of draws. So you're really paying for the fact that it's a lot of parts. It's a fairly decent action figure on its own, constructible action figure, and you're getting the Toa Ignika, the Mask of Life, which you probably waited for about 3 or so years. So that's generally what's wrong with the set. What's right with the set, it's a decent action figure. You have Toa Ignika here, and the board does look good and functions well. That actually generally sums it up. There's not a whole lot to talk about with Toa Ignika here. He's fun, he looks kind of cool. There's not a whole lot of new stuff to him, but what he does present is well presented. So, what do you guys think? Do you like Toa Ignika? Did you get him when he was released? Please feel free to let me know either in the comments below or on the TTV message board at board.ttvpodcast.com. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope you have enjoyed. Join me next week when I go over the big, the bad, the guy that this guy makes look like a punk, Makuta Ikarax. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you then.